This evening, November 9th, 2023, at 6 p.m., the Pawtucket School Committee work session. If we could, Ms. Liss, if you could do roll call.
Ms. Bonello? Here. Ms. Carney? Here. Mr. Charbonneau? Here. Ms. Doobie? Here. Ms. Fernandez? Here. Ms. Grant?
Here. And if everyone could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, no one is signed up for public participation. So we're going to start off this evening with a student information data update from Dr. Tate and her team.
For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Tate. I'm the Chief of Assessment, Accountability, and Research. And today I'm going to give you a snippet of a little data update about student attendance, discipline, SAT scores, graduation rate, and LIPAS scores. And tell you a little bit about what we're doing to increase and decrease discipline and increase academics. Okay, this is the attendance, daily attendance from August through now, November 1st. And you can see the 21-22 school year, it was 88.7%, the average attendance. In school year 22-23, it was 87.9, and now it is 91.3. So around this time in 21-22, this is around this time in 22-23, and now 23-24. So you can see that it has increased. So that's a good thing. We plan to stay that way. And this is what we're doing to improve student attendance. We're implementing a district-wide attendance team, and we will have teachers on the team, administrators on the team, and of course, district personnel. We are going to ensure that schools are following the attendance policy and procedures. We have continuous meetings with the truant officer and attendance monitor. We are going to include the social workers in on our monthly meetings so that we can discuss attendance and things that we can do to reduce the chronic absenteeism. We're giving school incentives. I don't know if it's on the website, but we just gave away attendance trophies for the schools with the highest attendance rate and the lowest chronic absenteeism rate. And we plan to give a trophy every month to 4 schools or 3 schools. And the school that wins it the most will take home the trophy at the end of the year, and then we'll start again next year. The superintendent is going to she's in the process of forming a student advisory council where she meets with students, different grade levels, and she can talk about things that they need to improve their attendance, along with other things such as student achievement. And we are requiring our schools to have a school-wide attendance plan, and they're coming in slowly, but they're coming. Okay. Any questions on how we intend to improve students? Okay. Suspensions from August until now. The 21-22 school year, we had 166 suspensions. The 22-23, we had 209 suspensions, and now we have 97. And this is the same time frame from August to November, and now we have 97 suspensions, so that is a big reduction. Happy about that. What we're doing to decrease suspensions. We are requiring the schools to have a school-wide discipline plan, and so they can follow their plan, and they have things in place to prevent suspensions. We have trainings on behavior. We also have Boys Town. I'm sure you are familiar with that. Ensure alternatives such as detentions and parent conferences to deter suspensions, and counseling. Our guidance counselors, as I said previously, we're meeting monthly, and then they meet with those students to give them something, talk to them, see what's going on, find out how they can support them to reduce suspensions. Okay, now we have our SATs, ELA. District, this is current. District-wide, we have 3.9% of our students that can read on grade level, meaning we have 54% of our students in high school that are not. JMW, 24%, 46% proficient, and then 24 exceeding. At Shea, we have 0% exceeding, we have 12% meeting standards. And at Tobin, we have 22% meeting standards. A lot of work to do there. The good thing about this, I think, is that we have a lot of students in the green, in the yellow area, and those are the students that are closest to proficiency. So we plan to do a lot with those students to move them to proficiency. And this is the math data. Again, in math, we have 0.2% of our students exceed standards, exceed expectations. 7.5 meet. That means that 65% of our students in high school in the area of math are not proficient. JMW, they have 1.9% exceeding, 29% meeting. Shea, 0.3 exceeding, 26 and 3.3 meeting. Tobin has 0 exceeding and 5.8% meeting. So what we have put in place is tutoring. We're getting students from the colleges to come and tutor our students. We are going to implement SAT prep for the students and extended learning program. And the extended learning program, what you all call ramp up after school. I just call it extended learning program, but it's actually ramp up. Okay, and this is our RICAS. In the district, we have 1% of students exceeding expectations in the area of reading. 16% meet standards, and 39% of our students are not meeting standards. And if you go, I don't know if you can see, I don't want to read off all of them, but if you put everything together with the district, we have about 80% of our students not meeting expectations. So that means that if I lined up 10 kids, only 2 can read at grade level. So we have 80% of our students not able to read at grade level, and so we have a lot of work to do. Research says that when you have an abundance of students not reading at grade level, then you have to strengthen your core instruction. So that's what we plan to do, strengthen our core instruction so that we can have more students proficient in the area of reading. So about the same as math. We have 1.4% of the students exceeding, 15% meeting. And then if you put the 44% with the 38%, again, we have about 80% of our students that are not proficient in math.
Question. So you mentioned that you're going to focus on the partially proficient to move them into
Proficient.
meeting. But what are you doing about the ones that aren't meeting?
That aren't meeting?
Yeah.
No, partially are not meeting. We're working with them as well.
Okay, so because you said the ones in the yellow,
The
so,
ones in the yellow are closest.
right. But I'm
Right.
concerned more about the ones in the red because
Yeah, we're gonna focus on.
the
yeah.
state just passes people on now, so,
Well, if you're in a school and we have one interventionist for math and one interventionist for reading, they can't concentrate on every student, right? So while we are giving students what they need, if you had to pick a focus and you want to increase proficiency, you would focus on the students that are closest to proficiency, but not leaving any student behind, of course.
right,
Right,
okay. Don't leave
Okay.
anybody behind.
nobody behind, because they have to grow. So what are we going to do? Yeah.
To what Ms. Bonolo just asked. When you're looking at your bottom performing students, it is important that teachers meet with them every single day
That's right.
because they need the most support and the most help. So when Dr. Tate says the ones in yellow closer, we may do a little bit more, you know, it won't impact them as much as it would if those students who are really struggling do not get the support of their teachers. Like, they need their teachers every day. So that's important. And we met with Slater today at our first data deep dive we had with that team, the leadership team, and it went very well today. And it's what we're doing is we're coming together because it is a very challenging work where you're looking at such a wide variety of students performing. So what we do is we come together and we problem solve, serve as each other's thought partners, and figuring out what is it that we can do differently or continue to make sure that students are making the gains that they need to make. And it was also, we looked at the various data points like Dr. Tate is sharing with you this evening, and then we determine our next steps. So my team have a responsibility in helping support the schools, and also those leadership team members walk away with, okay, let's try this and let's see, because it's important that we come together because the work is so difficult. It is. Teachers are doing an awesome job along with our leaders, but it does take everyone, you know, and that goes back to my mantra, together, every student, every day. So we have to do this together.
Okay, so some of the things that we are doing to improve our RICAS scores so that we have more proficient readers, it's not all about the scores, it's about having students that are proficient in reading. We want to have readers and students that can do math and prepare them to be college and career ready. So one of the things we're doing, we're preparing principals and assistant principals to be instructional leaders, doing walkthroughs, helping their teachers, coming to trainings to learn more about how to use data to drive instruction. We're learning walks in the schools just to collect trend data to see, you know, where do we need support? Where does the school need support to move forward? We're coaching our leaders. We have an executive director of schools who goes into the schools and helps the principals with anything that they need to help move the kids forward. We're planning with district coaches from Savvis. Savvis has coaches, and then we have 2 district coaches from Pawtucket. We have a reading and a math, and they go into the schools and help with POCs and help us teachers plan. And then we're going to ensure the implementation of RTI MTSS to try to strengthen our core instruction.
So if we go to that previous slide, we have a few of our elementary schools that are really doing quite well and actually exceeding many suburban schools in the state, even though they're facing multiple challenges that we face being an urban district. How are we looking to those schools to ask them what strategies have been working in your school so that we could look to learn from within our district what our teacher practices, administrative practices are that are driving such success in some of our schools while other schools are struggling?
We do that every month with the principals. The principals get together and they discuss and they learn from one another and they discuss their practices. And what we do is we get together every month and we do some leadership training, we do deep data dives, and we allow them time to discuss.
So what have been the takeaways? What is happening? Why are we seeing a school in our district that's at, you know, I'm seeing almost 60% when there's another school in our district that's also elementary school that's at 20%? What have we isolated as this is the difference that we're seeing here?
It could be a plethora of things. It could be demographics. It could be, that's why we're doing walkthroughs, to collect trends. What's happening over here? So that's successful, so we can maybe possibly bring it to another school. So it could be a plethora of things.
So we don't necessarily have the answer yet, but we're trying to arrive at it?
We do have the answers. It's very long. I can get it to you. I can call you and get it to you. It's just very long. I can do a deeper dive next time if you want me to.
I look at that, it's kind of, it's not surprising that it's Varia and Curtis that are the two schools in Pawtucket that are doing the best.
Demographics.
They're the two schools in
It has a lot to do with
And,
demographics.
the better parts of the city, so it doesn't surprise me at all that other schools.
schools with the lowest poverty rate. So. That's why I asked that when I look at that, it's not just looking at them and saying, well, the two schools with the lowest poverty rate are doing the best. Because they aren't the two schools, as far as I know, that have, I believe, I mean, I'm not gonna say for certain, but I'm pretty sure that is not true. So, and also Agnes Little, which faces, many challenges, but has seen a community school model, saw huge growth from year to year. So I just think that it would be easy to say, well, it's just one thing that's causing this, but I don't think it is. I think that if we actually look at growth year to year, we might see the benefits of a community school model. Or we might see the benefits of a smaller school environment. And I just think that it's important that we look and we take into account other factors.
It's a plethora. I can get it to you. Okay, graduation rate. The data for the graduation rate, we don't have it for this year. So there was no comparison because we don't get that, of course, to the end of the year. Right now, the graduation rate is around 72%. And so we aim to increase it. And these are some of the things that we're going to put in place or have already put in place. Monthly meetings with the guidance counselors. And just talking about how we can, because we have some seniors that are, missing 15 credits. And so it's just very challenging for those students to graduate when they're missing 15 credits. So trying to catch them, or we're going to catch them when they're freshmen, and making sure they're making up those credits, credit recovery, content recovery, making sure they get what they need, and so that when they become seniors, they're not, missing so many credits. Meetings with the superintendent, she's going to meet with the seniors at each school. She's going to have a discussion, like an open forum with the seniors, see if we can find out, what's going on and how we can help them. Listening to the students. Students have voices. We're going to ensure effective accessibility and opportunities for CTE, because when students are interested in something, they come to school and they want to complete it and they want to graduate. And then, of course, our district-wide attendance team. We can't increase the graduation rate if the kids are not in school. So we aim to get some incentives together, put our heads together, and improve the attendance district-wide.
Do we have, I mean, the roadmap is great, but do we have percentage values associated with this? Like, we aim to increase the graduation rate, but what's the timeline for that? And where do we see it 2 years from now, 5 years from now?
Well, in the school improvement plan, it's 3%. So from like 72 to 75. That's not a stretch goal. Of course, we want to go way beyond that, but a SMART goal would be 3% each year.
And the same on the RICAS test. What kind of growth are we looking to see?
We're looking for, well, we want more than that. But if we were to do a SMART goal with a mathematical content, it would be 3%. Right, proficient.
Right.
Increased by 3%
Right.
each
You're
year.
looking at, right, the expectation for growth, the expectation is to have annual growth.
Yeah.
Right,
But-
I've sat here for a number of years and to hear that we're looking for growth.
Yeah.
And I think it's,
Our growth is not bad. Kids are growing.
Yeah.
right.
Kids are growing.
I would like to see the data presented in a way, or the goals presented in a way that we're looking for growth, and next year we're looking to be here.
I can do that for you.
Because for me, that's measurable.
I can do that for
When we
you.
sit here next year and say, well, wait a minute, you said we were gonna be here and we're 5% higher than
I
that.
got you. I get that for you.
Positive. I like that.
also in our
It
plan
is.
as well.
But if I can make a chart so that it's more visual. Yeah. Any more questions?
What's the average graduation rate in Rhode Island, dude?
I
Off the top
do
of your
not
head?
know.
I was just wondering like how we compare.
How we compare,
I was just curious, it's okay.
I'll find out when I sit down.
Yeah, I was just curious, didn't you?
That's it. Thank you.
I just want to thank the superintendent, Dr. Tate, everyone for putting together a roadmap, but also more specifically, meeting with students and talking to them and asking them directly, how do we help you? Because I think really often adults, we assume what they need and we don't put our resources in the right places. And so going straight to the source and asking kids, what is it going to take to get you here and engaged and see yourself as a learner, for them to
Yeah.
tell us ourselves. So thank you for implementing that.
Thank you. Because we have one school in CSIP, and we definitely plan to turn that around. I see that
On
happen.
the attendance piece, have we partnered with the commissioner and the governor's
Yep.
rollout of a new?
Yep.
Okay.
We sure have.
Actually sitting on the committee.
Yes.
I think it's a terrific initiative, and I don't, I think the governor seems to be the only one touting it, and I don't know why. I think it's a great idea, it's long overdue, and so I hope that we're fully supportive of it.
Yes.
So, the one piece you didn't address is tardiness. And, you know, I dropped my granddaughter off, and I've gotten her there on time. I drop her off, but the line is out the door and down the steps of kids that are tardy. I drive by Baldwin, and you see the parents pull up to the curb and the kids running into school, into an elementary school on their own, and they're tardy. This, I did drop my granddaughter off at Curtis. She was 1 minute late, but there was someone at the door greeting her, ushering her in. So are we tracking those? Are we not tracking those? And what are we
they're
going
very-
to do about it?
Yes, the data for that is very inconsistent and hard to get. Where's Hirsch? Is Hirsch here? It's different for every school, so it's hard to put it together and get a solid number.
But why
a
is it
meaningful
different
number.
for every school? It should be the same
It should.
consistently.
We need to streamline the process. I agree.
You know, if you're late, you're late. You know, if you have a doctor's appointment, fine, you've got a doctor's note.
How was it tracked, Hirsch, the tardies?
The attendance policy committee, that's one of the things that we started to address on there to make sure it's consistent throughout all the schools. So the committee we're putting together, so we just met this week on that.
Okay,
Do we robocall on all tardies? So we robocall on absences. Do all of our schools robocall? The only reason I say it is I received my first for any of my kids, and I know they've been tardy for dentist appointments and things like that, and I was wondering if this is new, or if it was just I got the excuse in on time and in the past.
Yes and no, like, we don't for those, even on the absences, on those that, you know, the officers have been notified and the parents notified it, there's a checkbox that they put, parent knows, so that we don't, you know, call that house and
But
say.
K to 12, if a kid is showing up even 5 minutes late, that parent's getting a robocall if they didn't specifically say, I had an excuse?
Correct, parent notified, yeah. And I'll double check that, but there should be, 'cause it's the same configuration for all the elementary schools. Let me double check between the elementary and the secondary, but it should be the same for all of them. But there is a button there even for the absences, if they, parent's been notified or you drop it off, they know that's that, which is different between an excused and an unexcused absence for a
Yeah.
medical reason.
Okay.
But the tardies is one of those things that, you know, we're part of the attendance team that's putting together, and it's more than just meeting about it, but it's putting the whole procedure in place, what happens with a tardy, and looking at those. Because like you said, Ms. Manola, a lot of times it's more the chronic absentee is what's been reported, and Mr. Charbonneau was saying that the governor is pushing behind. I think this week we've received about 6 or 7 emails, just, you know, come tomorrow. they're sending out all that data, and it's public facing. They've been doing kind of a pilot with that program over the last couple of years to make it public facing, and now they're going full boat to put it up on the website.
Dr. Tate, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. And as we move on, can I entertain a motion for approval of the previous minutes for September 12th, 2023? Motion made by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Mr. Charbonneau. All in favor? Any, anyone not in favor? Okay. All right, so we move on to old business discussion action items. Can I entertain a motion to remove from table approval of the Elizabeth Baldwin playground design? Okay, Ms. Bonolo, did you wanna?
So to remove from the table, we just take a vote.
I'm sorry. Can I just do, or does it have to be roll call? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bonolo?
Yes.
Ms. Carney? Yes. Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie? Yes. Ms. Fernandez? Ms. Grant?
Yes. Okay, so now we move on to approval of the Elizabeth Baldwin playground design. Approved by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Doobie.
So for information purposes, you have the information in front of you. Jared is here. We did go through this at the facilities meeting. It has been extensively reviewed by Baldwin and their teachers, and they have all approved and made changes. It's acceptable. We have money for it, which comes later, but that's it. So if anybody, Jared, if anybody has questions for Jared, you want to present?
Does anyone
Does
have any
anyone-
questions? No? Okay. Then if Ms. Liz, you could take a roll call?
Ms. Bonolo? Yes. Ms. Carney? Yes. Mr. Charbonneau? Yes. Ms. Doobie? Yes. Ms. Fernandez? Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Thank you.
On to new business discussion action items. Recommend, A, recommendation to award Varia wall furring out. Mrs. Ramsey, would you like to make a motion? Approve first?
This has also been before the,
We need a second.
okay. This has also gone before the facilities committee. I think this committee has seen it a number of times. We've gone through the final and have the award to Strategic Solutions Team in the amount of $200,000.
Anyone have any questions or, yes?
Can you just refresh my mind, what was this one, was this for the,
This is for the furring out. It's for, at Varia, their media center. When they did the media center, there was,
They didn't cover all the brick. So they requested that they cover the rest of the brick so it's more modernized and fits in with the new media center design that we put into 4 schools.
and this is money that, this isn't coming out of our general account. This is money that, was left over in the grants that allowed for these media centers to be done. Is any more questions? Roll call, Ms. Liz.
Ms. Bonolo? Yes. Ms. Carney? Yes. Mr. Charbonneau? Yes. Ms. Doobie? Yes. Ms. Fernandez? Ms. Grant?
Yes. Next, recommendation to award the Elizabeth Baldwin playground equipment. Can I entertain a motion?
Okay.
Motion to approve by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Doobie. Any questions?
So this has gone through also the facilities committee. The amount of the playground equipment, this is just for the playground equipment, it's not for the installation. But it has also been found out of FEI, I believe, FEI 1. so it'll be covered under that. We get that, and we get the full reimbursement on this if we get the order in before December 31st. The equipment, as you saw before, this is going to O'Brien and Sons, and if you look at your paper, you can please disregard the $6,194,492. That is an error. So this is an award to O'Brien and Sons.
Any questions? Mr. Charbonneau?
The award is 382,161.28.
Correct.
Okay.
Everyone good? Ms. Lisk, please take roll.
Ms. Manolo? Ms. Carney? Mr. Charbonneau? Ms. Doobie? Ms. Fernandez? Ms. Grant?
Yes. On to number C, letter C, recommendation to award the Elizabeth Baldwin Playground Equipment Storage Services. Motion approved by made by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Doobie. Ms. Bonolo?
So on this package, we are purchasing the equipment now. It's not ready to be installed. Gentry Moving and Storage will store it for us for $18,950. It has been requested by the committee that a representative of the Pawtucket School Department do a visual inspection and possibly with photographs of the equipment when it comes in for storage to verify that there's no damage. So when we take it out of storage, we are guaranteed that we have perfect pieces of equipment. And the company Colliers is going to ensure that they have insurance on it to make sure should anything happen, it is covered. But to our knowledge, it is covered.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yeah, that was gonna be my clarifying question. We're approving $382,000 in equipment, and I get the reason why, because of the timing and the reimbursement. But another 20 grand to store it, and we're not sure that the company has the appropriate insurances to. They will, or they do?
Sorry, they do.
Okay.
So for items inside of a storage unit, we don't have to, it's kind of like apartment insurance. The items inside your apartment aren't covered, you have to get your own. So would we have to get our own?
Because we're hiring them to, written in the MPA request, it was requested that they own the storage and protection and insurance of the equipment while it's in their hands. When I went out through the MPA to request the storage, it was written in the MPA request that they are required to insure and protect the equipment that is in storage in their hands while they are holding on to it. Yes.
Thank you, Jared. Any more questions? Ms. Liz, could you call roll?
Ms. Bonolo? Yes. Ms. Carney? Yes. Mr. Charbonneau? Yes. Ms. Doobie? Yes. Ms. Fernandez? Yes. Ms. Grant?
Yes. On to,
Move on. I would like to make one comment regarding the facilities, and tonight will be the last meeting that Jared Jackson will be with us. He is moving on to other pastures. I would like to thank him for his service to this district. And Jared, if you want to come up and say anything.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's really touching. I have, it has been quite the journey over the past 2.5+ years or so here, through all of the adventures that we've had together. And it is with a heavy heart that I am moving on, but thank you.
good luck, Jared. Are you ready for us to move on? Okay. School committee policies, first passage, Ms. Doobie.
So the first policy here, AC, non-discrimination, unlawful harassment, and sexual harassment policy and procedures. If you look at the third page here, you're gonna see Title IX coordinator. In the past, in our policy, we have listed the Title IX coordinator. And I usually bring policies to you fully baked, but this one I'm actually bringing to you to ask the committee which option they would like. And the reason I'm doing that is because I really think it's important that we get this updated now instead of waiting for policy to move through it. And then, because right now, this is not our Title IX coordinator. So option one is that we can pass this with first passage with the correct name of our Title IX coordinator as designated by our superintendent. Option two, we've checked with legal and other policies are written to read, the Pawtucket School Department superintendent has designated an individual to serve as the Title IX coordinator. This information is available on psdri.net. So if in one way, we have the name written right here, so it's in our policy and easily accessible and they don't have to go to another step. Our policies are available online, so you would think that going to psdri.net isn't an undue burden, and it would prohibit, it would allow us to not have to change this every time we change our Title IX coordinator. But I can see advantages to both, so I would encourage a motion to approve, suggesting either approve with a specific name or approve with language that there will be a designee. And then for second passage, I'll have the language all written out so we can look at it.
Motion to approve with an option of designee?
Second.
We have a motion made by Ms. Bonolo to approve with the name of a designee for the Title IX coordinator, seconded by Mr. Without the name, I'm sorry.
As the superintendent's designee.
As a superintendent, as a designee, and leaving this with no name,
Okay.
seconded by Mr. Charbonneau. Any questions?
And as I said, I will have the language all written up for second passage, and if it's not the way the committee would want it, we can, and second passage, look to change that language. But I will be looking to put this on our very next agenda, which is in, 5 days? And we can have this 100%. We don't want Title IX to be something that is not up to date with policy.
Any more questions? Ms. Liss, could you take a roll?
Ms. Bonello?
Yes.
Ms. Carney? Yes. Mr. Charbonneau? Yes. Ms. Doobie?
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez? Yes. Ms. Grant?
Yes. Now we go on to number 2, BED8, public participation at school committee meetings. Ms. Doobie?
So, legal counsel reached out to me a month ago and asked if we could take this up at our policy meeting. They had 2 suggestions for language to bring our policy in accordance with city ordinance, and also to ensure that we don't violate open meetings acts with our public participation. So this is, I didn't make any changes based off of what legal recommended to me. So our policy subcommittee didn't. So this is what the policy subcommittee approved. This is what legal recommended.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Fernandez. Any questions? What are you? Seconded by Ms. Fernandez. Any questions? Ms. Liss, call roll.
Ms. Bonello?
Yes.
Ms. Carney? Yes. Mr. Charbonneau? Yes. Ms. Doobie?
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez? Yes. Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Sorry. The
That's
next
okay.
policy, JICJ, is our electronic communication devices. As you can see, that this is a policy that we wrote, some of us were here, in 2016. It hasn't been updated since then, and it is 7 years in the future, and there's language added at the bottom here, bringing in line with what is happening in some classrooms, where some teachers do have procedures where they might have a system where they have phones stored on the wall in the class, and teachers do put in place certain procedures in their classes. This also opens the door for if a school wanted to put in place a school-wide procedure that limits electronic communication devices. What we're talking about is cell phones primarily. However, we did think the language that any procedure must include a clear plan for allowing ECD usage in case of an emergency was important to put in there, and that may be a shift for some teachers who are doing this already, that they really need to think about what are they communicating to their students about in the case of a lockdown, in the case of an emergency in the school. What is the procedure in this classroom? Should all students go run over and get them? Should they shelter in place? And then, so these types of things would need to be taken into consideration for any teacher or school that is putting in place a procedure moving forward.
Motion to approve?
Motion made by Mr. Charbonneau, seconded by Ms. Bonolo. Mr. Charbonneau?
You see at some concerts or whatever, they have you put your phone in a bag. You can view it, but you can't. Is that something we're looking at, or should we be looking at a district-wide plan so that we maintain consistency from school to school and?
So this policy would allow that. So this policy would be a step that would allow that. So it does say that a school could implement a procedure, and our superintendent can comment on this, or our assistant superintendent. We were at the Healthy School breakfast where the Yonder pouches is what they're called. Yeah. All of the Providence middle schools have done this. I actually had an opportunity to sit down with Nathaniel Green at that meeting, and the middle school, not our Nathaniel Green, the middle school in Providence. And I chatted with the teachers and counselors at that school, and they said it was hands down the best thing that's happened at that school to have this. They said they're amazed at the engagement they're seeing with their students. And after a couple of weeks of adjustment, it's seamless and across the board. They were the pilot school. Central Falls has also implemented Yonder pouches. So it may be something that our school, those decisions wouldn't be made. This policy does not mandate or have any school go into this, but what we did hear from both the people at Yonder who were at the conference, as well as from Nathaniel Green, they said it really was important that the school was 100% on board. But I think the superintendent could weigh in on whether or not this is something that her team is looking at.
Correct. Thank you. Yes, I was there when we implemented the Yonder pouches. I can say that it will take at least some months for us to implement that effectively, because we need all voices at the table for that to happen. So it definitely wouldn't happen, say, this year, but definitely we would have to start that process now, working with our community stakeholders, our parents, our students, and our teachers and leaders to make sure that we implement it with a plan, because we had to create an implementation plan, and that work would have to probably start sooner than later, if that's the route we would want to take.
Ms. Bonolo?
So, the way it's written up, though, is school administration or individual teachers may implement procedures around ECDs. So, wouldn't we want to have approval of what they're implementing? Because, you know, we do have to look out for student rights and things like that, so you would want to make sure that it was being done properly, you know, instead of someone saying, hey, give me your phones, put them in this bag, you'll get them at the end of class. Something like that would not work. So maybe we should, is there a way to put like a guidance on it, individual teachers with approval from their administrator, or, you know, put it in the hands of the school proper instead of individual teachers? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I think the previous policy, not the bolded part, does spell out that if the use of the ECD interferes with or is disruptive to the learning environment, the ECD shall be confiscated and returned to the student and or parent at the end of the day. And it does spell out that the whole thing we're looking for is that it doesn't interfere or detract. I do think that, you know, you always might have a teacher who might have a classroom management policy that needs to be addressed, or that, but I feel like that, in general, that would almost say like, we should have all of our classroom management strategies approved, as opposed to our administration should in general know what's going on in their school building, and if there's something that seems, I don't know, I wouldn't lean towards putting that in policy, but if it's the will of the committee, then we could. I think that it does become this idea that all classroom management strategies run the risk of being excessive. So we would almost want to go through all of our policies and say, you know, if you want to implement a classroom management strategy that involves like moving your clipboard up, like you need to get your approval from, I don't know. I think I'm already seeing teachers doing it, and this just gives them the protection from us to say, this is a strategy you can use in your classroom. You can have the, and if the parents say, my kid doesn't want to put their phone in the little, you know, pouch, we can say, no, this is a policy that this school can do.
Right, I understand with, like, the pouches, I understand that is putting it in as a policy, but this gives them gives them, they can do anything they want with the phones. In other words, it's not, when they walk in the classroom, their phone is not impeding their education. So if it's a policy that we do this in the beginning, it's just like, so if something happens to the phone, what do we do? So I know what you're talking about with the pouches, then they're in a secure place. But if they're left to the teacher, then something happens, then we're responsible for, my phone got cracked, whether you know it or not, my phone got cracked. So then whose responsibility is it? So I'm playing devil's advocate, maybe
Okay.
this,
But just to add, to what Erin's saying, I think you're more leaning towards the procedures, instead of the policy. And right now, we do have school-wide classroom management discipline plans in place. So you do school-wide, and then teachers do their classroom management plan. And we leave the autonomy to the teachers to implement those strategies as they need, because as you see, every teacher is different, every student is different. So we can't mandate the specifics, you do it this way and this is the only way. So we do entrust that teachers do what's best for kids under those situations, and always focus on the learning in the classroom. But just to let you know, we do have structures, we do have policies, and, procedures in place. School-wide, and you go classroom down. So it is in place.
Any more questions? Ms. Liz, please take roll.
Ms. Manolo? Ms. Carney? Mr. Charbonneau? Ms. Doobie? Ms. Fernandez? Ms. Graham?
Yes. May I entertain a motion? Sure. Have a good night, everyone.